Hello, and welcome to the first Charm EU podcast. My name is Tim Savage, and I'm delighted to be presenting this first edition. And with me today is Hjelle Petersen, a Charm EU student, and we're going to be talking about the topic of the upcoming Charm EU Days. How can the European Universities Initiative contribute in achieving the European Green Deal? Really focusing and trying to understand the student perspective on that topic. So Hjelle is a fifth-year medical student at the Faculty of Medicine in the University of Montpelier. He's a student representative for the university and also one of the student reps in Charm EU, and he's been with us more or less since our inception, I seem to recall, in Montpelier, quite some time ago. So thanks a lot, Hjelle, for joining us today. In this first podcast, we're going to be talking about Charm EU, this European university, and the European Green Deal. And for those of you that don't know the European Green Deal, it's really the top priority agenda for the European Commission at the moment and an integral part of the Commission strategy to implement the United Nations 2030 agenda and the Sustainable Development Goals. And it's a range of policy initiatives and actions, and it's really a greener agenda focusing around three main achievements. How to make Europe climate neutral by 2050, the entire continent, which is by far, I think, in most people's opinion, the most ambitious of the goals. A focus on decoupling economic growth from resource use, breaking that cycle that we've drifted into. And also a real focus on inclusion to make sure that no person and no place is left behind. And in order to do this, the European Commission is going to carry out a series of initiatives that will protect the environment and boost the green economy, focusing around 7 or 8 key policy areas. It's really seen as resetting the Commission's commitment to tackling climate and environmental related challenges, which in effect is this generation's defining task, or Hjelle, I should really say, your generation's defining task. And I sometimes think that that's one of the challenges that you're going to be facing in a way that we have less to do with. So thanks a lot for being here. Great to see you again. I'm going to launch straight in with some of the questions. So this European Green Deal, it's a very ambitious plan. We know this. And it's supported very broadly by the European institutions and member states. But for students yourself, how do you think this focus is going to impact you and your education? What do you expect from the European Green Deal itself?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. The European Green Deal is very ambitious, as you have said it. It will bring a lot of changes to how our generation is going to experience Europe. It will affect our education, it will affect our job markets, it will affect the way we do research. And I think that as a student, it's probably one of the most interesting things we have seen in a long time, because it will so much affect our future. It will affect the way we educate our students. It will affect kind of research being done in the universities. It will need a lot of changes towards, let's say, greener research. How could we do circular economy? How can we break the cycle of growth with use of resources? And how can we develop sustainable solutions? Let's say, how could we improve batteries? Today, we need to replace the fossil fuel by other sustainable energy sources. So that, I believe, really is going to change the whole higher education structure in Europe. And it will also affect, as I said, our job market, because once we need to change how we do things, it will also affect the types of jobs we will have in the future. It can affect the types of professions we are educating our students to be. Will we need the same type of engineers tomorrow as we do today? Will we need to find new sustainable solutions, and it might create completely new jobs we have never thought about before. So I believe that this ambitious plan will lead to a lot of changes for us, and it's really interesting to be the generation where this is happening.
I think that's a really interesting point you make at the end there. There's an assumption that it's your generation that's driving this change. So I take it you're welcoming the Green Deal itself and its entirety, even though it might cause disruption?
Yeah, that's the real difficulty of it all, because we need to change by a lot. Being climate neutral in 2050 is not an easy task. and they have set ambitious goals already for 2030, and it will not be easy either. So the point they are talking about, leaving no one behind in the European Green Deal, is really important, because we cannot leave regions behind which are dependent on, let's say, coal industry or even gas and oil. To leave those behind will be also leave part of Europe behind. And I believe that is not a good solution. So we need everyone on board, and we need to find ways to include people in professions which are today not climate neutral. So that will be a big challenge.
Very good. And I think recognition that challenge is there, that we're not going into it with a very rosy view. We realize there is going to be a lot of disruption. I think that's a really important part of the message. So moving on from there, I mean, considering the importance of this deal as we are for present and future generations, how do you think we can really engage students in this process? Because I sometimes think there's a disconnect between these wonderful policies at the governmental level and then the student experience. So do you have any thoughts on how we can make sure the students are engaged?
Well, a pretty simple way to include students and engage them in this project is by universities focusing on the European Green Deal. Let's say having courses on the European Green Deal to inform us, and maybe even turn some projects into European Green Deal projects. So how can we do sustainable research during our studies? Could we have courses where we develop sustainable solutions for the future? Could even create new university courses, and even the European University Alliances could be really important in this manner. It could be new ways to teach and to study and to do research within the boundaries of the European Green Deal, and in respect to this one, especially.
I think that's well said, because if we don't connect the students, we're not going to connect the future generations. We need to build on that. And I mean, CHARM-EU itself, our European University initiative that, you and me are actually involved in, the whole idea behind CHARM is it's challenge driven. So obviously it focuses on authentic real world activities that we need. It's accessible, that deals with that inclusivity aspect we've been talking about. It's research based. It has a lot of student mobility underneath it, and in this attempt to create or co-create really this European university that's supporting this Green Deal and the broader SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals themselves. And really, as you know, what we're trying to do in CHARM-EU is become an example of best practice and good practice to increase the quality of education whilst not losing that vision and that connection with the Green Deal and the SDGs. So I suppose that leads me to the question. I mean, what measures do you consider important for CHARM-EU to actually work on to consolidate its commitment with the Green Deal itself? I mean, is it the challenge-driven side? Is it the accessibility? Is it the research? Is it the mobility that we're designing into our educational experiences? What to you is the areas we should really focus on?
Well, it's difficult to pick really one area to focus on, because there are so many areas that we can work on. I believe that it's important to not say that we have done only one of those and we should be satisfied with that. I think that we should strive to improve on all the areas. But since you mentioned mobility, I believe that we could be promoters of sustainable mobility, new ways of doing mobility, let's say virtual mobilities. And even though if we have to do real mobilities using fossil-fueled transport means, you could offset carbon emissions, and you could also motivate students to take more sustainable alternatives. Let's say between Montpelier and Barcelona, there is a high-speed train. It's less emissions. You can also take the train between the Netherlands and France and Spain. And within Europe, you can also find less polluting solutions. So that is an important aspect. But as the name CHARM itself stands for, it's challenge driven. So focusing towards the real challenge, the 2050 carbon neutrality, and the European Green Deal itself. It's a huge challenge, and basing some of the courses given within CHARM-EU on that one could be really interesting aspects to promote this European Green Deal and involve students in the future of Europe in that sense.
So there's a sense of not only the big vision, how are we going to contribute to this goal of 2050, but also walking the walk along the way. So you picked up, the mobility aspect of Charm EU, the idea that students will be moving seamlessly between the institutions, but enshrining it that we do this in a carbon neutral way. So, not losing sight of the big goal, but making sure as we move towards it that we're embodying everything that we're trying to achieve itself.
Yeah, I believe it's important for the image of the whole project. If we are ourselves not doing everything, working towards the goal of the European Green Deal, but saying we are supporting it, it could be a sort of hypocrisy. So it's, in that sense, it's really important to embody the whole project within the project. So we cannot only work on the problems, but we need to do some solutions ourselves as well during the process.
So in effect, it's challenging Charm itself. That if we're supposed to be supporting the Green Deal, well, act like we're supporting the Green Deal and move all of our internal operations towards those kind of goals itself.
Yeah, entirely.
Excellent. Listen, August, thank you very much. We really appreciate your time. I suppose just my closing comment to you is it's your generation that has to rise to this. And, I'm really glad there's people like you being involved in Charm. I think you need to keep the initiative honest, make sure we don't fall aside from the best practice and the goals and the ideals. So I really thank you a lot for your time. Really appreciate it.
Okay.
And that's all for today's episode of the Charm EU podcast. Thanks for listening. And thanks again, August, for joining me today. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast on YouTube so you never miss an episode. Plus, if you haven't registered for our newsletter yet, stop by our website at charm-eu.eu to become Charm, part of the Charm community. Thank you very much, folks. And until next time, for myself and August, goodbye.